Ever wondered why your factories in Transport VB2 aren't producing like you expected? Why that little number under transport says 62%? Don't worry, you're not stupid. The system is just a little bit weird and hard to understand at first, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly the difference between production, shipment and transport. We've got a little test map here with our Tycoon town, and it needs construction materials and it needs tools. We're going to show the difference between production, shipment, transport using the factories around that I've placed, and we'll see how connecting those different factories influences the numbers, the statistics on these figures here. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to connect in our quarry, our stone quarry here, to our Tycoon Town construction materials plant that we have here, and we'll see how that works. So the first industry we have is our quarry, which you can see already it has a production of 400. That's already maximum. A primary industry like stone or logs, which we have over here, or anything which is the first industry, the raw materials, will always have their production at the maximum. So that's good, but what do the other numbers mean? The first thing we need to understand is that production usually comes from the input side. So what you produce, what you bring into the factory affects how much it can produce. Obviously with a primary industry, that is maximum because we have no input on this side, it's just the raw materials. Shipment, however, is not an input based one, it is based on the demand. So in order to increase the shipment number, we need to have some kind of demand somewhere for the materials to go from this stone factory. So we have a brick factory here, which at the moment has 0 on production because it has no input, but it does demand the stone that we are producing here. So if we connect it up, and the simplest way we can do it in our example is using a road network, only a short distance, and we'll connect in here a road depot as well so we can bring our materials. We will buy ourselves a vehicle, a lorry, that is capable of transporting that. So we've got this one that is set for all cargo, and we'll put it on our new line. We've set this line up now, and you can see once I press play, this nice little lorry here will come along and begin transporting the stone. And as soon as we've connected this line here and shown a path for the stone to go, we have now started to ship some of our materials. So if we look again at the statistics now, you can see the shipment number is gradually growing. So where is this number going to stop? So we know that the one place we are connected to, the one place that it is being demanded, is at this construction materials plant. The construction materials plant has a demand at the moment to produce 100. It can produce 100 and it can ship up to 100, and it needs 1 stone to turn to 1 material. So we know we can accept 100. So we should see in the factory, and if we speed it up a little and let this number build up, we should see that number build all the way up to 100. So our road vehicle has now made a couple of trips, and the demand has filtered through to this quarry, and the quarry now can see is being demanded from this construction materials plant 100 of its stone, and so the shipment will be capped at that 100. No matter what we do, we cannot get that number to go above 100 with the present connection that we have with this materials factory. At the first level, it will only ever accept 100, so the shipment here is stuck at 100. Our transport is a percentage of that shipment. So we have 9% currently being transported. If we look here at the depot, as the lorry comes in, we will see this number build up. So we'll leave that to let that come in a couple of times and see that number build up over time. So as you see this lorry coming in here, you will see that the percentage transported increases each time that the vehicle drops off the shipment. So this is an annual percentage, and these numbers are all annual as well. So it will produce 400 in a year up to, and it's been demanded of 100 in a year, and currently we have transported 21%. So that number is going to keep coming up with every trip that this lorry makes, and the lorry is coming in now for a second time, and we'll see it goes up, looks like about 4%, 5% this time, and that number is going to keep increasing. So we can see that the transported percentage is based on what's actually delivered to the destination. we can now move on to our brick factory. So our brick factory now has a production of 94, which makes sense because our line rate, if you remember looking at our stone line, has a rate of 94. And the brick factory also has a production of 94. However, this brick factory is not going to increase because although our input, which is production, is at 94, it has no demand. There's nowhere demanding its materials. So we need to connect it in, and we know that Tycoon Town has a demand. Now Tycoon Town has a demand of 67. When you click on the town and have a look at the bricks, you can see that it has a 67 annual demand for construction materials. Now this number will increase as the town increases, but for the time being that's what happens. So if we now connect in with a drop off in the town, in the area where the industrial and commercial are, so we connect in that demand and we buy a vehicle that can make that trip. So again, using the same lorry that we did before, and we're going to take it from the truck depot there and drop it off in the town, and we should see now that the construction materials plant has the demand connected, and so this demand is going to increase. And once that demand increases, the shipment will increase up to the point where it matches this number here in Tycoon Town, and we'll let that play out. Also, we have here this transport, so we need to get this transport increased as well, and our current line rate for the brick line is 86, so we should be able to transport all the materials that Tycoon Town needs with the one vehicle that we have running. So we'll let this run for a moment, see that shipment number increase, and we shall see the transport number increase as well. So we can see as this lorry drops off its materials, the transport percentage is increasing each time it makes that delivery, as we saw with the previous line that we did. The shipment number has gone beyond the 64, 67 that we had originally in Tycoon Town, and that is because Tycoon Town is growing. We have delivered some materials which has given us a 20% increase in the town size, and that's because we've been delivering materials, and that's increased our shipment demand at the town. So our shipment number is going up, and if it breaches this line here at the same time as we breach the line for transport, shipment and production, then we will see this brick factory level up to the second level, and then it will demand more materials. So we have a nice little line. We are meeting the demand for Tycoon Town, and Tycoon Town, as you can see, is in fact growing. However, one thing that can be confusing when you do this is if you connect in another source material. So we have here a shipment demand of 100 for this line here, and if we connect in another one, because we've got another stone quarry over here, we want to connect this in as well, because logic dictates that if we give it more materials, then we're going to get more bricks. But it's not quite that simple. If we put in a truck stop here, we'll then buy another vehicle and we'll connect that in, and we'll see how that affects the shipment numbers for the first stone quarry. So you can see now that we have connected both lines in. The shipment number for the stone quarry is actually dropping, which you might think is not a good thing. We were up at 100, we wanted to increase that shipment number, but it is dropping, and that's because we now have another player, a new guy in town, which is this stone quarry here. And if we look at the brick factory and we go to their suppliers, you will see that it is now taking stone from two different stone quarries. The numbers are equalizing, which if our line rates don't match on the one from the west line, and they won't because it is slightly further, we've got a line rate of 66, it may mean that we start to under deliver materials to this brick factory. But it's just worth noting that when you connect in two suppliers, it's going to demand from both of those, and that means that we need to make sure we have balanced supply from both sides if we're going to run like this. This will actually help us in the long run, because as this brick factory is leveling up, and it will level up soon because the demand from the town has increased to 88, so we've gone over this threshold, and our transport also has gone over the threshold, is going to level up, and we'll see how when that levels up, what impact that has on our stone quarries and its shipment demand. So you can see that the brick construction plant has now leveled up to level 2, can now produce 200, and its demand has now increased to 200. So if we go now to our stone quarry, our first one, we're back up. At the moment we're above that 100. We're at 109, and for this one we are at 91. So you can see that they are increasing now, and these will both add up to the 200 that this brick materials factory now demands. So for Tycoon Town to really go, it also needs tools, and for the tool factory we have a similar chain, but instead of having just a primary and a secondary material chain, we have a primary input which has, each of these logging camps has a capacity of 400 to produce. We then have to produce planks, and then we have to take it to the tools factory. The tools factory can produce 100 at the moment at the first level, and it requires 1 plank to do so. The planks factory can produce 200, so at the moment can produce twice the amount of tools that twice the amount of planks, sorry, that we need for this tools factory. But it also needs 2 logs, so it's worth paying attention to the industries that require 2 of a material. So we need 2 logs to produce each of these planks, which means actually we need to supply twice the amount of the production number. So in this case, to produce 200 we need to supply 400, and that's okay because this forest here can produce 400. So if we set that line up, we will see that come through. So it's just one thing to bear in mind when you're doing this, that you need to pay attention to how many raw materials are needed in order to produce the materials that you want down the line, because if they're not, if it's not a 1-to-1 and it's a 2-to-1 as it is for planks and for refined oil, then you need to make sure that you are doubling the numbers that are stated in the production of the downstream production factory. So we've set up a logs line, which as soon as we've set that up, we have now logs at our truck depot. We have a rate of 66, and we have a shipment of 400. So the full 400 of this factory is being demanded, even though the plank factory says 200, because we need 2 logs to produce 1 plank. So we're demanding a full 400 from this, and you can see this when you look at the consumers, that the Warminster sawmill is demanding the full 400 and is shipping that. The transport figure, as we said before, will increase with every delivery that we make, and you can see that's slowly going up. So you'll see now that we are actually demanding 400, and we'll see our transport percentage will keep going up every time we make the delivery. But obviously the rate on the log line is currently 75 and our demand is 400, so we're not going to get that, and quick maths says that 75 goes into 400 5 times, so we'll get about a fifth of that. So we should get about 20% transport annually, but we will max out at that, because with the 1 vehicle we are not going to be able to deliver all the logs that are needed for this factory. As this lorry now comes in, it drops off its logs, and we're getting a 21% transport from this logging camp here, from this forest, to our lovely sawmill. However, as we saw, we will cap out at about this number because our line rate is only 75 and we need to be able to transport 400. So the obvious way to rectify that is to go to that line and increase the number of vehicles on there, and you can do that very quickly by managing the vehicles, selecting the vehicles and duplicating, and you can see that the rate now has increased by 75 because we've got 2 vehicles. So we get a 3rd vehicle, 225, a 4th for 300, a 5th for 375, and we will go to 1 more to make sure that we fully deliver the 450, even though we will have some empty loads. And you can see the vehicles running along the line to do that now, and that will mean that our transport percentage will start to increase from this sawmill towards 100 once we've left it alone for a while. However, as we saw before, the sawmill will not actually produce that 400, it's going to produce a 200. You can see at the moment it's stuck at 34, which is about half of the 75 line rate we had before. But as we increase the line rate now to 400 or over 400, we will get to see this production line go higher than that. And one thing you can see with this is it is actually consuming, it's consuming the materials and storing some of those materials as well. So it is consuming the materials, but it's not shipping them anywhere, and it will not do any shipment, it will not send anything anywhere till we connect the demand, which is here at this tools factory. So we've built a new depot at the tools factory to connect in a planks line, which will bring in the raw planks and they can be processed into tools, which is all very good. We have a one line which has got a rate of 53, but we want to also utilize, let's say in our playthrough, the industries over here so they don't disappear. We want them to be used. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect in exactly the same and mirror those lines, connected those through to connect these logs and planks into the other side to meet the full supply for this tools factory. So we've now connected in this side of our industry, our logistics on the east side of our map, so that we have logs coming from this fourth forest here. We have a line connecting those logs into this this sawmill, and we have another line which connects those planks into this tools factory. And the final piece of the puzzle that we need to do is connecting the tools into our Tycoon town. So we'll do that now. So we've connected Tycoon town up now with a line which will also drop off the tools that are coming from our tools factory, which all looks very good. But one thing we've noticed, which we weren't anticipating before, is we now have logs sat at our sawmill waiting to be taken away, and those logs, if you look, are on our planks line. So why are they getting mixed up in there? Well, we now have, if you look at the line manager and I zoom out a little bit, you can see we now have a line which goes east to west over here and connects all the way through. And although we had the intention of bringing logs and then planks from that side, logs, planks from that side, what we've actually done is connect the demand for the logs which are produced on the east to the plank factory in the west, and we've also connected the demand for the logs on the west to the plank factory on the east. And you'll see now that logs are going to be demanded, are going to be dropped off on our planks line, as you can see here, and that creates a bit of a problem. And if you look at the plank factory now, when we look at suppliers, it's demanding the logs from the far reaches of our map rather than the one nearest, and they will increase in that number as they start to go through, and that can be seen as a bit inefficient. Why are we taking logs from this side and taking them all the way over here, and then logs from this side and all the way over there? You might say, well, it's just about the money and we're not really bothered, we're going to make money anyway, and so that's good for us. But we only really wanted to take planks this way to our tools factory. If we're taking logs as well, logs to there, then we're not taking the planks that this tools factory needs, and that's going to start to starve our tools factory of the materials that it wants. So how do we remedy this? Well, what we need to do is we need to go to our line manager, and we'll look for this light blue line here, which is, let's have a look, filter it there. We've got our planks line here, and we want to manage this line, and we want to say, look, we do not want to take logs from the tools factory and come this way. So we'll go over to our Tycoon East. We'll click this little filter icon, and we'll say, when you get to the Tycoon East, we only want you to, at the moment, we want you to unload tools, and we don't want you to load anything. So the only thing we want them to do is to not unload tools, unload the planks that we can take across. We don't want them to pick anything up there and bring it this way. Equally, on the other side, we go to the line manager and we look at our planks line. We can manage that line, and we can stop it from doing the same thing. So when it gets to Tycoon East, we want you to unload only planks and we don't want you to load anything. And we can disconnect the demand pathway that runs through our network, and which will mean that we'll no longer get the demand for those logs from the far side of the map to that. So if we look at our suppliers now, the number of shipping should start to drop, and we'll see all return to normal. Tycoon Town, meanwhile, is very happy. The number being demanded from there is increasing. We now have a demand for 104 tools, 97 bricks, and we also have demand for other materials which we don't have on this map. We will have some logs that are stuck there because we can no longer take them. But what we'll get is a normality of our line where we're only taking the materials we thought we would take through. And that, in a nutshell, in a bit of a big and a bit of long-winded nutshell, I'm afraid, that is how production, shipping, and transport work in Transport Fever 2.